and welcome to In the Garden with Flower Hill Farm, a podcast brought to you by Botanical Interests. I'm your host, Nicole Pitt. On today's episode, we will be joined by a gardener who loves to share everything from out in the yard to inside the kitchen. It's Meagan Lloyd from Meg Grows Plants. We will talk about what seeds we are starting, favorite varieties, plus chaos gardening. Chaos gardening is exactly what it sounds like. It's gardening with a little bit of wild energy and a lot less control. Our garden chat is coming up. I'd like to officially welcome everyone to spring. We made it. I've been so happy to spend the winter with you, dreaming of the days we are in right now. This is what we have been training for, ordering our seeds, mapping out our gardens, and double-checking those dates. We have been nurturing seedlings at our seed starting stations, and whether they take up a small shelf or an entire basement, our garden hearts are happy and inspired. Share your garden inspiration stories with me. Send them to Nicole at botanicalinterests.com. Now, depending on where you live, you may have things in the ground already, but for me, in upstate New York, Zone 4, the time is just about here. One of the very first things I plant in my veggie garden right now happens to be one of the very reasons I have always needed a garden in the first place. Once the snow has melted and I can work the soil, out comes the packets of peas. Which brings me to our seeds of the day. Now, I am not picky when it comes to peas. Snow peas, shelling peas, sugar snap, I want them all. And lucky for me, and for you too, Botanical Interests actually carries more than 10 varieties in their lineup. My grandfather always had a trellis of peas in the backyard, and I would beeline to that trellis and feel for the thickness of the pod, patiently waiting for the perfectly plump sign it was ready to eat. Now, I love using snow peas in stir fries. The delicate pods add the perfect fresh flavor. But I treat shelling peas and sugar snap basically the same way. I just snap them open and enjoy the goodness inside the pod, although you can eat the entire pod on some varieties. Now, peas are widely considered one of the oldest crops, dating back to nearly 10,000 BC. Peas are a cold crop and can tolerate a light frost, which is why it should be planted as soon as the soil can be worked. Some of the seeds that I have tried and true favorites right here, I've got Mammoth Melting Snow Pea and Little Marvel, which is a shelling pea. I could actually eat an entire bushel, and I have. Every year I intend to grow enough to get some in the freezer, but it never fails. I eat them all raw, guilty as charged. Anyway, if it's time where you are, get those peas in the ground so you can enjoy those delicious pods in just a couple of months. Well, coming up, we will sit down with Meagan Lloyd from Meg Grows Plants. Stay with us. Welcome back to In the Garden with Flower Hill Farm. Today's guest loves to share what's growing in her garden and how she uses her harvests in the kitchen. Please welcome Meagan Lloyd, also known as Meg Grows Plants online. Meg, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Meg was one of the speakers at the Northwest Flower and Garden Festival in Seattle last month. So we were able to actually meet in person, and it's so lovely to see you again. How was your experience at the show?
Oh, it was so good. I don't know what I was picturing or imagining, but it was so much better than that. And it was so huge. It was so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. And I met so many lovely people. Like, we really are in such a good niche, you know?
I think so.
I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, this is the best niche, I think, to be in for social media, because everyone is just so nice and so kind and so welcoming. And like, there's no, I don't know, like I couldn't imagine being a beauty influencer or something like that,
right?
You know, and being at one of those events.
I feel the same way. It was just so much more, it took up so much more space than I was expecting, especially the gardens that were built inside the building. Those were incredible. And I honestly, I was there for 5 days, and I was glad that I was there for 5 days because it took that long to see everything.
Yeah, I only went to the show for 2, and I was like, okay, next year I have to come back for all 5 because I thought that 2 would be enough. It's not enough.
No.
I didn't get to see the whole thing.
There was a back corner that I never made it to, and I feel bad that I didn't, but next year, right?
Same. Yeah. We have all of the years.
Yes. So tell us, how did you find your way to the garden? Was this something that started in childhood, or tell us your first memories of gardening?
So it didn't. Like my parents didn't garden, but I had grandparents that gardened. And I remember visiting their house and, my grandfathers both gardened and they would show me their massive tomatoes that they grew. And so those are kind of my very first memories of gardening. Um, but I didn't really pick it up until adulthood. I did a little bit of balcony gardening after college, like when I had my very first apartment. I was like, I would love to grow something out here. I've always been drawn to plants, even as a kid. Like I have loved picking flowers and herbs and things like that. And I even had this special interest in herbal medicine in high school. And I actually did my senior project on that. And so the second that I got a chance to garden, I had to put patio plants out on my patio. And then when we bought our house in 2020, I saw my backyard and it was just this clean landscape, just this perfect canvas. And I was like, now is my chance. Now is my chance to start. And so that's kind of how I started. I just started with one garden bed. And, it was during the pandemic. And what else did I have to do? I had nothing else to do. And also it was during a time when things were kind of sketchy, like the supply chain and everyone's thinking it's on the top of everyone's minds is what would we do if everything collapsed? And so I was like, yeah, now is the perfect time to try to grow food.
I think you're not alone there. I think so many people like returned to the garden during that time, and I don't think they've left. Like it just keeps getting bigger and bigger the more people are gardening. It's amazing.
Right. It was definitely a gateway drug for me, like just my first bed. And then now I have, I think, 14 raised beds, a greenhouse, chickens, and bees all in my tiny urban backyard space. So my house, like our entire lot, is under a quarter of an acre. So I think I measured my backyard garden. It's about 9,000 square feet. I don't really know what that equates to. But yeah, it's not like the smallest space. It's not a balcony, but it's also not a very large space either. And I've completely packed it full, as full as I possibly can. I don't think I can add anything else, even though I want to. But yeah.
And what is your zone? Where are you located?
So I'm gardening in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we are Zone 8A, formerly 7B, but then they updated, the map.
You're creeping up in the world.
Yeah.
I am not. They said that I'm going to be a 5, but I remain a solid 4B. We were negative 22 a couple weeks ago, and that puts us in the negative in the 4B category. And I still like to test the waters a little bit. I did put a zone 5 Coosa dogwood in last year, so I'm crossing my fingers that it had enough snow to insulate it so that it'll come back this year. We'll see in a couple weeks. We're a couple weeks away to see if it survived the winter.
Yeah, you're up in the Arctic.
I know.
I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't imagine. Oh my gosh.
So take us back to when you were just on the patio and you were just experimenting with garden. What were you growing right on the balcony?
I grew lots of herbs. Herbs was my first thing. I was like, let's start simple. And I love to use herbs in the kitchen. And I hate paying grocery store prices for spices. And so it was mostly herbs. I think I remember I had like 2 little pepper plants. I had 1 tomato. It was a very small balcony. Yeah. And over the edge, like on the fence, I had strawberry plants that were hanging down. And yeah, it was perfect. I mean, it was very small, but I feel like I learned a lot. And I also kept hundreds of houseplants in my home at that time too. So my social media actually started out as a houseplant page, not a gardening page. And I feel like houseplants were kind of actually my gateway into gardening. Yeah. Those were the actual gateway.
I actually can't keep a houseplant alive to save my life. I'm not in my house enough. That's what I feel like. I'm just never inside my house. I'm always either at the garden center or the farm. And by the time I get inside, I'm lucky if I get a drink.
Right. It's hard to keep both. Like Now I don't have as many houseplants. I have very few. Like the 100 is just not there anymore. I probably have like 5 houseplants now, and that's the most I can keep up with inside and outside. It's just too much.
So today, I thought it would be fun to talk about chaos gardening. It's something that is trending right now. For someone who has never heard the term before, tell us what chaos gardening is.
I love talking about chaos gardening. I think it means something totally different to everyone. I think like in its simplest term, it's literally just broadcasting seeds. Like the old timers are probably like, what do you mean chaos gardening? This is just you're talking about broadcasting. But to me, I think it's evolved a little bit. It just means something a little bit different. I feel like chaos gardening is kind of just taking off the pressure for everything in your garden to be perfect and in neat rows, perfect spacing, very aesthetic. That's a lot of pressure. And when you're a beginner gardener, I think you're looking at, Instagram gardens and Pinterest gardens, and everything is so perfect and in a line. And over the years, I've been trying to garden more like nature. And I think that nature, she's not perfect. She's very chaotic. And so I like to plant different things in different beds. Like I don't have a monocultured bed in my garden. It has different varieties of things. And I think that just increasing the biodiversity in your garden and just kind of viewing your garden as an ecosystem rather than just, a place that you grow food, that to me is chaos gardening. And so yeah, it's kind of taken on like this whole other thing for me now. But I think it started when I was working a full-time job and I had an hour commute each way and I didn't have a lot of time to garden. So I was gardening on just the weekends or in the evenings when I got off of work. And I remember just like walking outside with a bunch of packets of seeds in my hand. And I was like, you know what? I don't have time, but I want to garden this year. I'm just going to throw out all these seeds and whatever happens, happens. And then I got like the best garden that year. The thing is just popping up and just letting the garden grow wild. And I was like, wait, there might be something to this. I think when I try too hard, it just doesn't work like this. And now I just didn't try at all. And I have the best garden I've ever had in my life. There's got to be something to this. So that's kind of how it all started for me.
That happened to me when the first year I tried to do like a whole, probably 100 by 100 foot spot. I did wildflower seed and I didn't really put that much effort into it. I just broadcast the seeds and it was the best that I've ever had. And every year since I have put more thought into it and I've tilled the area. I've heavily watered the area. I just put more fenced in the area. It's never been as good as the first year when I just scattered the seeds and let nature take over. So there's something to be said for that. Now, that said, are there seeds that work better for chaos gardening for scattering than others?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's harder to chaos garden seeds that are larger because, they like to be buried deeper.
Yeah.
So some of my favorite things to chaos garden are the smaller seeded things like lettuce. Lettuce is my favorite because you can sow lettuce really densely and you don't have to thin it quite as much. It's not like a root crop where you really do have to go back and thin it out for spacing purposes. So any leafy green, really. So lettuce, arugula, mizuna, anything like that. I think is perfect for chaos gardening. But then I also do love to chaos garden the root crops. I feel like I never was able to grow carrots before I just chaos garden them. I think that carrots they know when you're trying too hard. They're not going to grow if you're watching them like a pot and you're doing all these crazy things like putting vermiculite over them or putting cardboard over them or like mixing them into like a paste or like I tried everything. I tried everything like that to grow carrots the first time. And then I never was able to grow carrots until I just scattered the seeds and literally forgot about them. And then ever since then, that's how I grow them. And I'm always able to grow perfect carrots now. They just know. They know if you're trying too hard, they won't do it.
They've got their eye on me because I still have yet to successfully grow a nice carrot crop. And I think I'm inspired. I am going to dedicate at least one of my beds this year to just scattering things, because a lot of times I feel the pressure as someone who does create content for the internet and someone who has a cut flower farm. People expect to see our spaces and have it be a walkable row where you can walk through and all you're just surrounded by the same flower on this side and then the same flower on this side. And I think that there is some therapeutic nature in letting that go. Have you found gardening to be therapeutic for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you follow me, you kind of know a little bit about my journey last year, but last year I really fell into a dark mental hole.
Mhm.
I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer and I was diagnosed with MS all in the same year. And yeah, it was a really hard time for me, but I really leaned into my garden. And I think just having a space that you can walk out into that is just so beautiful and there's so much life, it takes your mind off of all of that stuff that is going on in your own life. And you can just
Yeah.
observe nature and you can realize how beautiful life really is, because sometimes it doesn't seem that way. And sometimes you can get sucked into these negative thoughts about your life or the world, even.
Mhm.
Just to have a space to go out and just realize how beautiful life really is, I think is so therapeutic. And then just to get your hands in the soil and to grow something and nurture something with your own two hands and watch it grow is very satisfying and very therapeutic. And yeah, there's just nothing like it, I don't think. Yeah.
So, a step further from that, because you're obviously getting so much immense like pleasure from gardening, but you're bringing that in the kitchen and you really do a lot of things with your harvests. Talk about, so at the Northwest Show, your presentation was about preserving food in ways other than the traditional canning. So you do so many things. Talk about some of the things that you do to preserve your harvest.
Yeah, I do it all because the very first year I really leaned into gardening, I wasn't expecting to get as much of a harvest as I actually did. And so my mind was focused on growing all of the food. But then when I grew it, I didn't think further than that and as to what I was going to do with all of that food, because it's just me and my fiance. We're a small family of two over here. But I have this counter full of tomatoes and peppers and things that we can't possibly eat in the amount of time before they go bad. So I turned to preserving because I was like, I've got to do something. And I was giving away food too. And I had more than enough for me and to give away. Um, I do it all. I think that freezing is the most simple way that you can preserve food. Most people, I think, have a freezer. And it's just something so easy to just chuck some food into the freezer. I go as simple as just, putting whole tomatoes in the freezer, just put them in a bag, or sometimes I
Mhm.
don't even put them in a bag. I just like drop them in my freezer and then save them until I'm ready to make sauce or tomato soup or something. So that's one of my favorites. And then I think dehydrating is something that is so versatile, and you don't need any special equipment to dehydrate. You can dehydrate with the air, you can dehydrate with your oven, but I do think that it's worth it to invest in a dehydrator, and it doesn't have to be a super fancy one either. I've had really expensive dehydrators and I've had really cheap dehydrators, and I actually prefer my cheaper dehydrator that
Mhm.
I just got off of the internet than the really fancy one. Um, Dehydrating is so versatile because you can dehydrate pretty much anything: fruits, vegetables, herbs. And like I said, spices is one of my favorite things to make. And I think it's such a money saver because
Mhm.
herbs are so easy to grow. They're easy to grow a lot of them in a small space. And they're also very easy to dehydrate and turn into spices. And you can get creative with them as well. You can make your own rubs. I love to make my own like pork rubs or chicken rubs, seafood rubs with the spices that I grow, and pepper powder. You can dehydrate tomato skins that you don't put in your tomato sauce. You can just dehydrate those skins and turn them into tomato powder that you can turn into tomato paste, or you can add to soups, or you can add to whatever you want. It's just such a versatile way to preserve your food. Even the trickiest things like herbs.
I am having so much regret right now because of all of the tomato skins that I have tossed to the chickens. I didn't even think to turn them into a powder. That is such a great idea.
Well, at least they're going somewhere. At least they're going to your chickens. But a lot of people don't think about that. And there's so many like little tricks that you can use to preserve things that you could never thought that you could even preserve, like the skins. Like another thing that I love to do, going back to freezing, is you can use your carrot tops to make pesto. It really does make a great pesto. And then you can freeze pesto in an ice tray so that you have these perfect little cubes of pesto to just pop out and put in pasta sauce, or heat it up and put it on a sandwich, or however you like to eat pesto. Yeah. Those are probably my two favorite ways to preserve for beginners. If somebody is like, I want to preserve, but I've never done it before, freezing and dehydrating for sure. And then you kind of work your way up to the more intermediate things. Like there's infusing, there's fermenting, and then you get to canning. And then I think that the ultimate way to preserve is freeze drying, but I don't even do that because I don't have the equipment. It's very, very expensive equipment, and I just don't have the space for one, but I would love to eventually learn how to do that. But yeah, there's so many things that you can do.
So one of the things you were talking about during your presentation was how much you love to pickle things.
Oh, yeah. Pickling. I forgot about pickling.
Yeah. Well, I knew it's on the back of I know you're thinking about it. You're thinking about it. What are some unexpected things that you've pickled before?
Oh my gosh. I love to pickle everything. So my favorite thing to do is they make gallon-sized jars. I get a gallon-sized jar, and I make a very basic pickling brine, which is, a brine is a mix of vinegar, salt, sugar, and then you can add whatever spices you want, like mustard seed, peppercorn. You can add peppers if you want it spicy. So make a very basic brine. And then as I'm harvesting things in the garden, because sometimes you don't have enough to make a bunch of jars of one thing, you just are bringing in small things at a time. As I bring them in and I wash them up, I cut them up, I just throw them into my jar. And so it becomes like this mix, this medley of things like carrots, radishes, beets, peas, beans. You can pickle anything. You really can pickle anything. People even pickle their eggs from their chickens. And that's my favorite thing to do. And this is just a quick pickle, so it stays in your refrigerator. You can pickles, but I think that quick pickles are just the way to go.
I've never, again, this is something new for me. I've never thought to have just a brine ready so that when you get a couple of things, you could just throw it in the brine. That is perfect because sometimes it's hard to get the quantity that you need to pickle a whole jar, or maybe you just don't have the time to do it all at once. So you can just do it a daily thing. I love that.
Yeah, I think that's what overwhelms a lot of people about preserving is they're thinking like, I'm not growing enough, or I'm only gardening in a small space. Like, how can I preserve? You don't need to have a bunch of things all at once to preserve. There's ways that you can do just a little bit at a time. And then you're still preserving and you're still making fun things for yourself. Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite recipes? You don't have to share the actual recipe, but some of the meals that you make from your harvests. I was on your website earlier and I saw, so I love ground cherries, but what do I do with them? I saw that you have a recipe for a pie. That is amazing. Talk about how you incorporate all of your stuff into recipes.
So it's an upside down cake with ground cherries. And
Okay.
I'm telling you, if there's one recipe that you make of mine, you have to make that one because it is
Okay.
so good. I make it every year because ground cherries, like you either love them or you hate them. I think it's very 50-50. It's like cilantro. I love them. And even if you don't love them fresh, I think you would love them cooked into something because they just take on those flavors like vanilla, cinnamon, things like that very easily. And yeah, the cake is so good. But sorry, what was your question?
Just some other meals that you make from the garden.
Okay, so like my strategy is I walk out and I kind of assess what's growing and what I need to harvest. And I'm just always thinking of things that I love to eat. So, for instance, if there are tomatoes, my first thing is tomato soup. I love tomato soup. And I love soup in general. And I feel like soup and gardening just go together because it's kind of like the quick pickling thing. You can put anything into a soup and it's going to be good. Like you just mix in some broth and some seasonings and then whatever vegetables are in the garden and you have a soup. It doesn't have to be like a certain recipe. And I think it's also really easy to make your own recipes if you're making some kind of soup because you can just do whatever. But I don't know. My brain is so all over the place that I don't really have a set thing. I'm just walking out into the garden. I'm like, tomatoes, tomato soup, eggplant. I haven't had eggplant parmesan in a while. I can make that. Or like the ground cherries. I would love a ground cherry cake, or I could make it into a jam or a jelly. I think that the more that you practice cooking with things from your garden, the more ideas just come to you. Yeah. And you're like, I could make this into a taco, or I could put this on over some rice or something. Like one of my favorite things to make in the spring when the blackberries come in is I love to make a blackberry marinade, and it goes so good over tofu or chicken or pork, like anything. It's just so good. And then over some rice, it's amazing. So I think the more you practice, the more these ideas just come to you and you figure out unique ways that you can make really good food from your garden.
So you have 14 raised beds. What are you filling them with this year? Do you have a plan, or are you chaosing everything?
See, like the way my brain works, so I have ADHD. Let's start there. If you can't tell already by how I like just forget where I'm at when I'm talking. Like I don't have a plan. I just kind of go out and it's very in the moment. Every time I have sat down and I have tried to plan my garden, I end up getting overwhelmed. And sometimes I will make a plan. And then when I go out and I start gardening, that plan changes in the moment. And I'm just like, I don't remember what I said was going to go here, but I'm just going to put this here instead. And most of the times it works out perfectly for me. Sometimes, when everything starts growing, I go back and I'm like, oh, I could have done this differently. But then I feel like I just learn from that and it'll stick with me because I'm also a very tactile learner. Like I have to make mistakes to learn. That's the best way for me to learn anyway. And so I kind of welcome mistakes because I'm like, I know that I'm going to learn something from it and it's going to stay in my brain forever, So, that's just kind of what I do. So right now, my garden is pretty bare. I kind of have a clean slate because we actually got freezing temperatures and a lot of snow this year, which is very unlike what we usually get for Charlotte. Usually I'm able to overwinter a lot of things, but this year a lot of things died off. So it's like a blank canvas, which is kind of nice. Like it's kind of nice. It's just all blank. So for instance, a few days ago, I just planted out an entire bed. And I put peas in the back of the bed. So it's a 6x3 bed for reference. I put peas in the back on an A-frame trellis. And then I have Napa cabbage. I'm determined to make my own kimchi this year. Yes. Napa cabbage is like something that I can grow cabbages, but Napa for some reason is just really tricky, but I'm determined this year. I planted out Napa cabbages in the middle of the bed. And then I went in on the sides and planted some carrots and radish together, which is another one of my favorite combinations because radishes grow so fast from seed to harvest. It only takes 3 weeks. And then, carrots, it takes carrots 3 weeks to even germinate.
Yeah.
So by the time the carrots are germinating, the radish are ready to pull out. And then it kind of aerates the soil a little bit so that the carrots can grow really nice and straight. So it's a favorite combo. And I kind of put that on the sides. And then I planted some beets in the front of the bed. And then because I don't like to waste any space in my garden beds, I went in with lettuce and just chaos garden lettuce in the rest of like the middle in between the cabbages and then even under the peas so that the peas can give it a little bit of shade because here in North Carolina it gets really hot and sometimes it's hard to grow lettuce in the spring. So that's just an example, I guess, of chaos gardening for me is just filling the entire bed with different things and not leaving any space. And it's kind of like this living mulch over the entire bed. Yeah. And so it's just an example of one bed that I filled out. And then I've got to plant potatoes and onions. So I think I'm going to do a whole bed of just potatoes and onions as well. And then maybe in the corners, I always like to tuck flowers in. So like calendula, or you can also tuck herbs into a corner. I think a corner of a bed is made for a flower or an herb for sure.
I agree. I usually tuck, I love putting calibrachoa, to be honest with you, because it just makes me happy. So a million bells in the corner, or marigolds, of course. Those are the ones that will help the garden. But then last year I put a thumbergia on the bottom of a trellis and I didn't plant it until late. And it's still trellised, I would say 5 feet up. And this year I'm going to put one in May so that it actually can get to the other side. I'm so excited to have a thumbergia rainbow, a black-eyed Susan vine. It's going to be amazing.
Yes.
It's in my vision. I see it.
Oh my gosh, you're inspiring me because I always see those in the garden center and I've never picked one up because I'm like, where would I put it? But they are so beautiful. They're so beautiful. And they're a native variety as well. So I think that's super important to include native flowers too.
They're stunning. By the end of the summer, they're just completely covered with flowers and beautiful. So speaking of flowers, I wanted to talk about the bees that you have and how that has changed life in the garden for you.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if it's changed too much because honeybees, they have their very specific things that they like to pollinate. And ironically, they don't prefer vegetables. Like they don't prefer tomatoes and peppers and things like that. They do prefer the fruit trees. So I have noticed in my little potted fruit trees that they get pollinated a lot better than they used to. But as far as the vegetable garden, the native bees are the ones that are pollinating all of that. But yeah, so it's like, I haven't noticed like too much of a difference in pollination, but I have noticed a difference in my happiness. I love taking care of bees. I think that they're so cool. They're one of the coolest creatures on earth to just witness and observe how they are. And this year I think is going to be my best year with my bees. They survived the winter. I've had a lot of ups and downs with the bees. My first hive didn't survive. And I'm expecting to get a huge honey harvest this year. So I'm excited about that.
I'm very jealous. I've always wanted to keep bees. My husband's allergic. So, I mean, I do have 20 acres. I could put them way far away from the house, but I haven't convinced him yet to sign up for that. Plus, we also, I don't know where you live, but we have black bears all over the place. So my friend around the corner has bees and they actually had to put up an entire electric fence around their hives because the bears just keep getting into them. So it would be just another thing to take care of for me and for my husband. So I'm trying to see his point of view and defer the bees for maybe another few years, but We'll see. I don't know. I really want them.
You need them. You're a flower farm. They would be so happy there.
Yes.
They do love the flowers. That's for sure. Yeah.
I have Sunflower Steve. He's a flower farmer in Wisconsin, and he partners with a bee farmer, and they actually bring their hives to his field so that they can pollinate, and then they give him some of the honey that's produced from the bees on his property. So it's kind of a fun thing. You can partner up with people who do keep bees just to have them around temporarily. So that's fun.
You can. Yeah. And there's a lot of that in Charlotte, actually. If you live in North Carolina, I think is a pretty bee-friendly state. There are a lot of beekeepers here. And Charlotte is our biggest city in North Carolina. And it's surprisingly a really bee-friendly city as well. There's a ton of companies that will do that. They'll come and set up a hive. You don't even need a farm. They'll do it in your backyard. If you just want to kind of observe the bees, but not do any of the work. Yeah. Then they'll come and do it all for you. So I think that's great. But I love having bees, but I also make sure to cater to the native bees in my garden as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure they love chaos gardening. They love the diversity. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's another thing is like ecosystems thrive off of biodiversity, and the native bees and just native pollinators in general are so important. And when you chaos garden and you're increasing your biodiversity, you're just inviting all of these really good bugs into your garden. And you grow so much. I think here's what I'm trying to say. I think when you take food out of the equation of gardening and you focus on the ecosystem and the flowers and everything like that instead of the food first, then I think you'll be able to grow so much more food than you ever thought imaginable, because you're creating that balanced ecosystem first, and you're inviting all of these good bugs into your garden and like beneficial insects that are going to help you combat the quote pests in the garden, so that you don't even have to really lift a finger sometimes. And the beneficial bugs are things like ladybugs and lacewings and praying mantis and things like that. And I think over the last 6 years of my garden, the more flowers that I've planted, the better my garden has become. So I think that flowers are so important. And again, just the biodiversity of everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking now of what you're talking about, how different you plant your beds up. I do a combo of both things. Because I have a garden center, I will take trays of leftover vegetables home. So sometimes I'll have a bed with just 25 eggplants in it. And I can tell you that when I look at that bed, it doesn't make me as happy as the other bed that I plant with 5 different things in it. I look at that bed and I'm like, oh, I love my garden. So I really am rethinking how I want to plant everything this year. Because I usually do. I have like a Roma bed, a beefsteak bed, a cherry tomato bed, an eggplant bed, a jalapeno bed. And now I want to just put chaos everywhere.
I know. I feel like it's kind of instinctual because, like I said, it's like that's how nature gardens. If you look at a forest, you're not seeing the same thing. And if you are, then you know that there's a problem, and there's probably invasives in the area. But if you look at a good forest, like a good ecosystem, there's different elements that you're looking at everywhere you look. There's not all of the same thing. It's all different, and it's very chaotic, and it's buzzing with life. And I think that makes all of the difference in the world in a garden. For sure.
Well, I'm so excited to not plan my beds this year. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Favorite plant to grow from seed?
Oh my gosh. I'm not good at rapid fire. Peppers.
Okay. Favorite flower to smell?
Gardenia.
Yes. Favorite tool in the garden?
Oh my gosh. I don't know what it's called, but it's a scooper. It's like I don't know it's a scoop.
Okay.
I don't know what it's called, but it's a scoop.
Does it scoop dirt or?
Yes, it scoops dirt. It's
So like a trowel?
it's like a trowel, but it has a curved edge to it. So it like scoops, it actually scoops the dirt
Oh,
out.
okay,
And I don't know
cool.
what it's called, but I got it from my local garden center.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Favorite thing to harvest?
Again, peppers. I
Yeah.
love peppers so much. Yeah.
There's like a satisfying snap when they come off the stem.
Yes. Yes. And when you pour them into the basket, it's like
Oh, yeah.
the most satisfying sound.
Mhm. Favorite month in the garden?
April. Because
April.
so it's fresh, it's brand new, you're
Yeah.
planting out everything's perfect. The bugs haven't come yet, the heat hasn't come yet. It's perfect.
Oh, and last question. Early mornings or evenings in the garden?
Evenings. I am not a morning person. No. Evenings for sure.
I love to bring my coffee out in the morning, but I don't have time in the morning because I have other
Yeah.
places to be. So I love being out there in the morning because I love to listen to the birds, but then I'm more relaxed in the evening when I get out there. So it's more
Right.
relaxing the evening for me for sure.
Yeah, same. There's something so calming about like everything settling down and everything's going to bed. Like the chickens are going to bed and I'm about to go to bed. The garden's going to bed.
One of my favorite things to do is I have probably 30, 35 solar lights throughout my garden, and I love to be out there as they start to turn on. So I'll count it down. I'm like, okay, 8:18 p.m. Okay, I should see the first one start to come bing, bing. I don't know. There's just something so rewarding to watch it fall asleep, but then the little fairy lights light up. And yeah, it's a totally different atmosphere at night.
It's so magical. Solar lights add so much ambiance to your garden. That's one of my favorite things to add to a garden is lights.
Yes. They're so beautiful. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back with one more question for Meg. Stay with us. Welcome back to In the Garden with Flower Hill Farm. And we have one more question for our guest, Meg. Meg, tell us, what inspires you in the garden?
Oh, this is such a hard question because I feel like it just changes all the time. And there's so many things that inspire me. Like, I don't know, some things that we've already mentioned, just nature in general, just seeing flowers bloom, seeing life buzzing around the gardens, all of the sounds, the birds chirping, bees buzzing, watching my chickens, ironically enough, like, I don't know. I just love, chicken TV. They say chicken TV, just watching your chickens. My chickens are so inspiring because I don't know. They're just living their lives, just pecking around and not worried about anything and foraging for things. It reminds me of how I forage in my own garden for things that I need to harvest. Yeah, I think that all of that is just so inspirational. I mean, just walking out into my garden is a wealth of inspiration.
Chickens are really a great thing. I know a lot of municipalities don't allow them, but I think if you find out if your city or town or village will allow them, I know sometimes there are rules and regulations like you have to have them in the backyard. You can only have 3. You can't have a rooster. Yeah. But they're really a fantastic thing to add to even if you don't have a farm or a homestead, it really is such a basic thing to have. Chickens are fantastic.
They really are. Yeah, I can't have a rooster in my neighborhood, but some of my neighbors have roosters. So I don't know. I'm not saying break the law or whatever.
I know.
But
maybe
also,
they're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's coming to check? Who's coming to check?
Who's coming to check? Who's really coming to check? I'm only supposed to have 5 and I have 8. So
I'm not going to tell anyone.
What it is. Thanks. Yeah. Don't rat me out.
No. So Meg, you also host a podcast. Tell us about your podcast and where people can find you.
Yes. So I host a podcast with my co-host, Dagny. It's called the Garden Girls Podcast. It's very chill. It's just kind of like sitting down and talking to a friend about all things gardening. And you can, we're everywhere. We're on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube as well, and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, just under Garden Girls Podcast. And then you can find me. I'm at Meg Grows Plants across all of the platforms. You can find me everywhere as well.
Yeah. Thank you. I had so much fun talking with you today, and I cannot wait to hang out again sometime.
Me too. We need to have you on our podcast because I would love to ask you a lot of flower questions.
Please, I'm dying to talk about cut flowers. I could talk hours on that. So yes, sounds good.
I really want to increase the amount of cut flowers that I'm growing in my own garden. So I can't wait to have that chat with you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's set a date. Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Meg. All right. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm your host, Nicole Pitt, and you can find more of my garden adventures over on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook at Flower Hill Farm. And of course, all of the seeds and garden goodies we talked about are waiting for you at botanicalinterests.com. Or check your favorite local garden center to see if they carry botanical interests, like we do at the Boone Street Nursery. Save 5% by using the code INTHEGARDEN. Want to see what we're talking about? Subscribe to the Botanical Interests YouTube channel for the video version. We'll see you next time in the garden. I'll meet you there.